The NFL is finally back. Games begin tonight with the Detroit Lions versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna finish editing this before or after the game starts. But I'm gonna be going over my predictions for the season. I'm gonna start in the AFC East and go through my predictions of records for the entire league. Starting with the Buffalo Bills. One of the Bills' biggest storyline going into the season is there may be some tension between Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. But even if there is some tension between Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, I don't really see it affecting the Bills' play on the field this year. I have key players for the Bills this year being the said Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, along with Tre'Davious White. I think the Bills will have another good season going 11-6. But in another year where Josh Allen has to be most of the offense, I think he might break down once the playoffs hit. But I'll get to the playoffs later in this video. The next team I have is the Miami Dolphins. When going through the season and the record for the Miami Dolphins, I assume that Tua Tagovailoa will have to miss some time in the season due to injuries. And in the middle of the season, they may lose some games that you wouldn't really expect them to miss at this point in the season. Like I have the loss to Washington that Miami is clearly the better team right now. But I'm not sure if Tua will be available for that game. So I kind of took that into account while deciding their record this year. And with Tua and his two top receivers being Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, I believe that when Tua is healthy, this will still be a top offense in the league. But with Tua's injury uncertainty, I'm gonna give him a 9-8 record this year. The next team is the New England Patriots. Now, this is one of my sleeper teams this year. If you watched the games last year, they had a very incompetent offense. And in like 3 to 4 games, they were just one play away. Say one play went their way instead of the other teams, they would have won the game. And they finished the season 8-9. And I think the addition of Bill O'Brien really helps the offense this year. Key players being Mac Jones, Matt Judon, and David Andrews. I personally don't think this is the worst wide receiver group in the NFL. A top 3 receiving core of Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker, and Kendrick Bourne is enough to have a decent offense in the NFL. A bigger problem I saw last year for the Patriots was their pass protection. I didn't know if it was because Patricia didn't know how to run an offense or their offensive line wasn't good enough. But near the end of the season, they resorted to throwing almost only screen passes for their passing offense. And that's why I have one of their key players being the leader of the offensive line, David Andrews. And I have a little bit of a surprising record for the Patriots this year. I have them win a lot of close games, unlike last year. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles will have a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover. And with the Patriots having Tom Brady there to watch them, I think they start out week 1 with a close win. And I think that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the season, and they finish 10-7. The next team will be the New York Jets. The Jets were able to get Aaron Rodgers and Dalvin Cook, two pretty big names in the offseason. And bringing those two in to what was already a pretty solid team, they are expected to have very high expectations this year. Now, I think that at the start, the Jets will struggle. The new offense that they will be under and Rodgers adjusting to a new team. And I have them losing their first 4 games of the season. Then after that, I have them winning every game to finish off the year and finishing 13-4. Now, I know this is a pretty outlandish prediction for the Jets. A 13-4 record is not outrageous for them, but doing it this way is very unlikely. The next team I have is the Denver Broncos. In the offseason, the Broncos signed Sean Payton to be their new head coach. And I feel like this should be an upgrade from last year in the head coaching department. But I'm still unsure if Russell Wilson will be able to get back to his all-pro self. The Broncos already have an outstanding defense led by players like Patrick Surtains. The real question will be if the offense can step up. And I'm not sure how well the offense will be able to do. So I have them going 9-8 this season. Next, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I made these predictions before it was announced that Travis Kelce is questionable for Week 1 against the Lions tonight. And with Kelce and Chris Jones potentially out for tonight, that might affect my prediction slightly, but I could still see this game going either way, so I'm going to stick with what I have. As long as the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, they will always be one of the top teams in the league. And I have the Chiefs having a pretty good season again this year. And from everything I see, usually towards the end of the season, the Chiefs will have either 1 or 2 games where you're questioning if they're still one of the better teams in the league. And I have that with them losing to back-to-back games to the Raiders and the Bengals. But I have them finishing the year 13-4. The next team will be the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the Raiders have basically the same team as last year, except they have Jimmy Garoppolo instead of Derek Carr, which I'm not sure if that is an upgrade or not. And last year, the Raiders were already a mediocre team, and I think this season will be pretty much the same, maybe a little worse. I have the Raiders going 6-11 this season. Next team I have is the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, Justin Herbert shows signs of being a top 10 quarterback in this league, but it's still not certain if Herbert is a top tier quarterback in this league yet. He has dealt with some injuries in his career, but I'm still not sure how I feel about Herbert yet. Besides Herbert, they have a very good running back in Austin Eckler, who along with being a good runner is also a great receiver out of the backfield. And they also have a pretty solid defense. So with all this, you'd think the Chargers should have enough to at least make the playoffs. But I have them going 8-9 this season, which if this does happen would make them one of the more disappointing teams of the season. The next team will be the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I've been saying this about Lamar Jackson for a couple years now, but I don't think Lamar Jackson is a good quarterback. At the aspects of what a quarterback has to do, decision making, arm strength, touch, reading the defense, all of those aspects of what a quarterback has to do, I think that Lamar Jackson is a below average to average quarterback in the NFL. But I think that he's a top tier athlete, and that is able to make up for his shortcomings at quarterback. And because of this, I think it will still be a pretty tight end heavy passing attack for the Ravens. But what will be interesting to see is the addition of Odell Beckham and and Zay Flowers. Now, at this point in his career, I'm not sure how much Odell Beckham actually has left in him. And as for Zay Flowers, I've had a lot of family that went to Boston College. So, Boston College was one of the teams I watched a lot. And I feel like a lot of people are way overhyping Zay Flowers. Maybe it was just because of Boston College's quarterback, whose name was, I think it was Jurstovic, who was a promising transfer from Notre Dame, who ended up regressing once he got to Boston College. Maybe it was just he wasn't good enough to show Zay Flowers' true talents. But I didn't see Flowers as a first round talent. Maybe like a third or fourth round, but not a first round like most scouts. I saw him as a Deebo Samuel type, not as good, but that sort of player who you could kind of move around. If you need him to run the ball, he could do that. He can run screens, run short routes to get open. So I think the fit with the Ravens is good. But I don't think he'll be able to do as much as most fans think he will be able to. So I'm seeing this team, as it usually has been the last couple of years, a pretty run-heavy, like grinded-out team that will win close games. And I'm seeing them finish with a 11-6 record. The next team will be the Bengals. So I see the Bengals as having another good season this year. With the relationship between Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, they are bound to be a high-scoring offense again this year. And I don't think that the Bengals have the best defense, but they do enough to win. So I'm putting their record this year at 12-5. The next team will be the Cleveland Browns. The Browns will be an interesting team in my opinion this year. After getting a full offseason with the team, how good will Deshaun Watson be? Was last year just a fluke and he's really still one of the top tier quarterbacks in the league? Or is Deshaun Watson already starting to digress in his career? I think that they'll have an okay season, but I'm still putting their record at 8-9. The next team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think there's too much to say about the Steelers. Kind of a mediocre team. Has a great defense, but subpar offense. Similar to the Patriots, but I think Mac Jones has proven himself a lot more than Kenny Pickett has so far in his career. TJ Watt will have another Defensive Player of the Year candidate season. But I don't have too much expectations for the Steelers this year. I'm predicting they're going 7-10. Next will be the Houston Texans. The Texans have been the worst team over the past, say, like 5 or so years. And with drafting CJ Stroud, I think the Texans will be a little better, but near the bottom of the league still. So I have the Texans going 5-12 this year. Next is the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are going with Anthony Richardson this season. And Richardson, compared to most rookies, is even more of a project. And I see Richardson as really a boomer bust player in the NFL. Someone like Josh Allen. If he gets the right coaching, he can be a star. But if he doesn't get the right coaching, he probably won't start past his rookie contract. So it's up to Shane Steichen to see if he can actually develop Richardson into a good quarterback in this league. But either way, he will definitely struggle this season. And also with the Colts putting Jonathan Taylor on the PUP list, this is not going to be a great season for the Colts. I have the Colts also going 5-12 this season. The next team will be the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars made the playoffs last year as a wild card on the last week of the season and won a playoff game. And Trevor Lawrence really improved during the second half of last season. And there are a lot of people that think that This is a time where the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to take over the league. I personally don't think the Jaguars are at that point just yet. I have them having a good season this year, going 10-7. But I have them in a close divisional race with the next team, the Tennessee Titans. So for the Titans, Derrick Henry, I think, will still be a very big part of this team. He will be very important. They need him to stay healthy. With the acquisition of DeAndre Hopkins, who I still believe has a lot left in him, that gives, I think they'll go with Tannehill as a quarterback for the year, but it gives Tannehill a reliable receiver to go to besides A.J. Brown. And I feel like the Titans have a pretty underrated defense, and I think the Titans will have a bounce back year this year. I have the Titans going 12-5 this year. Next, we're moving on to the NFC, starting with the Dallas Cowboys. So, the Cowboys are still one of the better teams in the league. Even after losing Elliott, who at this point was kind of relegated to a backup or goal line back, Elliott is still a good back, and the Cowboys are still a good team. I think that Dak Prescott will also have a better season than last year. After missing a couple games and having a high interception rate, I think he will step up and do better. I think the only thing that can hold the Cowboys back is coaching. But I have them going 13-3 this year. The next team will be the New York Giants. I honestly kind of think last season was a fluke for the Giants. I don't think that Daniel Jones will have as good a season that he did last year. And Saquon Barkley also does still have a lot of injury concerns. So I'm going to be giving the Giants a 6-11 record this season. Next are the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles made the Super Bowl last year, and I still think this is a good team, but they're not going to have as good a team as they did last year. Jalen Hurts will still have a pretty high-flying offense this year, and they will have a lot of big play explosion potential. And with a good defense, this is poised to be another good year for the Eagles. And I am going to be giving the Eagles an 11-6 record this season. The next team will be Washington. I think they're going to change their name again, so I'm just going to call them Washington. And I think this will be a young competitive team. Sam Howell had a great career at North Carolina, which I think will translate to the NFL, but I think it will take him a couple years. But this year I'm giving them a 7-10 record. Next will be the Arizona Cardinals. With Kyler Murray being out for most of the season, I do not see the Cardinals being competitive for most of the year. I do not see them having a good team at all. I see them maybe getting a couple sneaky wins here and there, but I see them as having one of the worst records in the league. And I see them finishing 3-14. The next team will be the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Rams had a really bad Super Bowl hangover last year, and then they lost their best receiver, Cooper Kupp. So I do see the Rams having a bounce back season a little bit. I honestly thought they got a little lucky winning the Super Bowl a couple years ago, but they are still a playoff team at this point. And they still have a pretty good defense, even though they're getting a little older. I still think that the Rams are capable of going 10-7 this year. The next team will be the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the Niners had a good season last year. They lost their starting quarterback, Trey Lance, early on and went back to Jimmy Garoppolo, who was doing great until he went down with injury, and they went to their third string, Brock Purdy, and had a great run of games to end the season. And this season they're going all in for Brock Purdy, making him their starter for the foreseeable future. And I'm honestly not sure how good Brock Purdy will be during the full season, but the 49ers also have an amazing defense. And they also have Christian McCaffrey as their running back. So even around Brock Purdy, there is a very solid team. And Purdy really only needs to play average for the 49ers to win a game. And yeah, I think the 49ers could go 12-5 this season. Next will be the Seattle Seahawks. Now, last year, Geno Smith kind of had a career resurgence with the Seahawks. And the Seahawks sneaked into the playoffs. And with him throwing to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, the Seahawks have the potential to be a great team. But watching Geno Smith when he was on the Jets, I'm not sold that he can be a starter in this league for long. I think he has a lot of good offensive weapons around him. But even in the second half of the season, Geno Smith did not look as good as he did at the start of the season last year. And yeah, because of that, I think the Seahawks will go 9-8 this year. The next team will be the Chicago Bears. Now, the Bears did add DJ Moore to their team, a very good and underrated receiver. But with that, I am not sold on Justin Fields. I know there are a ton of people that think Justin Fields will have a breakout season this year, but I don't think he will. I think the Bears will have a similar season to last year, and they will finish the season 6-11. Next is the Detroit Lions. I think the Lions will have a similar team to last year. They will be one of the best offenses, but have one of the worst defenses. So they will always be in a shootout. I think Goff was a good choice to get after they moved on from Stafford. In the past couple years, I think that Goff has kind of become an underrated quarterback. But he still does need some talent around him. And the Lions have definitely put talent around Goff. The problem is, I just don't think the Lions' defense is that great. I think they will improve from last year, but I think the Lions will be in a lot of high-scoring games. I have the Lions going 11-6 this year. The next team will be the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are going into their first season in a while where they do not have Aaron Rodgers. And they will be starting Jordan Love as their new quarterback. So I have a lot of expectations for Love. He's looked pretty good so far. But I feel like there would be a lot of speed bumps in his first year starting. I think that the Packers will go 7-10 this season. The next team will be the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings had a very good season last year. And I think that they will have a pretty good season again this year. They're losing Dalvin Cook, but he's been pretty injury prone throughout his career. So I think the Vikings will be able to move on from Dalvin Cook pretty easily. I think Kirk Cousins will have a pretty good season. And Justin Jefferson will continue to do what he has in his career. And I'm choosing the Vikings to go 12-5 this year. Next I have the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have a lot of hype for Bijan Robinson. But I honestly don't think he'll be that good. At least not in his rookie year. I still see this as a developing young team. They'll compete competitively, but their record will not look so good at the end of the year. I think they will finish the year 6-11. Next will be the Carolina Panthers. When I said I thought that the Arizona Cardinals will have one of the worst records in the league, I think they will be tied with the bottom with the Carolina Panthers this year. I think that Bryce Young will be a good player, but I mean, he's still a rookie. Most of these rookies will struggle in their first year at quarterback. And I'm predicting the same for Bryce Young. For the Panthers, I see this more as a year of getting Bryce Young used to NFL competition. Next will be a revamped New Orleans Saints team. Now, the Saints brought in Derek Carr, which I think that Derek Carr is a better than average quarterback in the NFL. But I don't know if Derek Carr's playstyle really contributes to winning. Because of that, I have the Saints going 8-9 this season. Next are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are starting something that the Patriots had to start a couple years ago. The post-Brady era. They have brought in Baker Mayfield to try and fill in, and this is probably a make-or-break season for his NFL career. Baker Mayfield has had some up and down seasons in his career, but Mayfield has never really put together a good season through and through. But the Tampa Bay Bucks do still have that core backbone of players that they did when they won the championship a couple of years ago. So Baker may be able to overperform this year, but I do not have the Bucks having a good season overall. I have the Bucks going 4-13 this season. This next part I'm gonna go kind of quickly. I'm not gonna go game for game in the playoffs, but my Super Bowl team picks and some storylines that I think will happen. As of now, I say the Super Bowl will be the Bengals versus the Minnesota Vikings. And I think this will be a postseason where people say the Bengals have finally took over after beating the Bills and then the Chiefs. But that's just my predictions. Let me know what you think.